Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Seer 365 session. As always, this is an opportunity for some of the ISVs on our Guide 365 platform to showcase their solutions and discuss what they are seeing out there in the wider ecosystem. Today, I'm joined by Adam from Aptitude Software. And we're going to be talking about complex finance architectures, the perfect topic for a Friday afternoon. As with all good things, this is going to be a webinar in 3 parts. So we're going to begin by talking a little bit about what finance leaders want, what Aptitude are seeing in the market, and what are the key priorities that the C-suite are on the lookout for. Then we're going to be going a little bit more in detail about the role of a subledger. How does Aptitude Finapps work to support Dynamics 365's financial capabilities? Finally, we are going to be focused on the partner proposition. How can you work with a partner like Aptitude to expand and engage in a completely new and challenging, but ultimately very lucrative vertical within Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance? As always, with the Seer 365 session, if you have any questions, whether you're watching live or on demand, feel free to put those questions in the comments. We will either answer them towards the end of today's session, or if you're watching on demand, someone will be in touch to help out. So without further ado, Adam, over to you. Tell us a little bit about Aptitude Software.
Yes, Rufus, I appreciate the intro and the opportunity to talk autonomous finance on a Friday, like you called out. But yeah, to start, if you're not familiar with Aptitude, that's right. That's what this is for. So just a little bit about us. We are, a software firm, and we are solely focused on solving complex accounting and finance challenges for clients, right? So, we consider ourselves finance experts. A majority of our team are, former Big Four consultants or CPAs. We eat, drink, and sleep accounting and finance, and we're proud of it. We have a couple different products, some subscription software, some revenue recognition, but our flagship product, Finapps, is what we're going to talk about today, which we're very proud of the product and our relationship and integration into Microsoft's Dynamics 365 Finance. So we'll talk about that today, but that we pride ourselves on being best of breed in leading edge technology in that space. So excited to share more there. Like everything transformation related, data is kind of at the core of it. We love to tell the data story as it can be extend clients transformational benefits with AI analytics and automation. A little bit about the Microsoft partnership. We're a global partner serving North America, the UK market, EMEA, APAC regions. Like I said, we have an out-of-the-box D365 connector that we co-developed with Microsoft's product team. We're transactable in the Azure Marketplace, and obviously we're a Seer 365 ISV partner. Our Finapps requirements are in the Guide 365 tool, so excited about that integration as well. But that is Aptitude, in a nutshell here.
Excellent. So you're established in the market. As you said, you eat, live, and breathe finance. What are you seeing in the market? Is what you're hearing different to what Microsoft partners are aware of?
Yeah. So, I'm not going to read this slide word for word, but so there's some things that I think, trigger a solution like an accounting hub or a subledger, which is our flagship product, Finapps. And then there's, maybe some other signals and triggers that you would hear from your client that might just seem similar to an ERP transformation, right? But A couple of things to call out here, like our, financial processes are disjointed and manual. Like that might sound a little familiar, feel a little bit familiar for you. Our GP environment is overly customized for insurance operations and reporting requirements, or the CFO asks us a question that might take 2 or 3 days to get the right answer. Whenever you hear, some of these triggers of processes being disjointed, data being disparate, lots of manual processes, not having great visibility into your performance, like the CFO is asking a question and it's taken days, to get that answer, or also like it takes, sometimes weeks to close the books, right? Those often are triggers for, looking at a subledger project or accounting hub, or adding those to an ERP project.
And obviously, I'm quite conscious from what you said.
Yeah.
A few of these can kind of kick off a standard ERP upgrade. The GP one, especially, you'd be looking at implementing D365 Finance. How do you establish if an opportunity is a case where you should be bringing in Aptitude Finance?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I think like if you look at architecture, the finance architecture, that's a good indicator of whether, a separate subledger or accounting hub is needed in opportunities, right? So if we take a step back and, just look at the D365 ERP portfolio, right? It's a great set of products, and it serves, that SMC mid-market, lower enterprise segment really well. Like if you're a manufacturer, you're going to get a lot of transformational benefits from the supply chain module. If you're, ProServe, you're going to drive a lot of, automation through project operations. If you're, a retailer, CPG, you're going to, live in the commerce module a bit, right? So if you're like one of those industries or a client that you could mostly do everything, like your operations can live inside of an ERP stack, you're generally not going to need a subledger, right? But if you're, some of the key, some of the niche industries like in financial services, like insurance, as the last slide called out, that one insurance quote there. If you're banking, if you're capital markets, if you're a telco, if you're a media company or software company, a lot of what you do is you're going to live outside of that ERP, right? So how are you, bringing that granular data together, and how are you centralizing the accounting and driving finance automation when a lot of your operations are outside of the ERP stack, right? So this is, a simple architecture picture here, right? But like, let's say you're insured, you're going to have multiple policy admins, right? You're going to have multiple claims management systems. If you're, a tech company or software or content or media company, you're going to have some type of e-commerce platform that's going to live outside of the ERP stack. If you're a telco, your billing system is going to likely live outside of the ERP stack. If you have some type of broker model, commissions calculations get pretty tough depending on the product you're selling, the commercial agreements, right? So you need some type of commissions application, and you need some type of calculations engine there. That's going to live outside of the ERP stack. If there's agency management systems within that broker model, again, living outside of the ERP stack. So, in some of these cases, the Microsoft and Dynamics product team, they see upwards of, 200 different source systems that are integrated into to Dynamics. And that could cause a lot of hurdles, right? Sure, you are, at a general level, right? The general ledger is a summarized level. You have a single source of truth, but at a granular level, you can have upwards of 200 different source systems with, the granular, transactional data, still trapped in those source systems, right? So that's where the idea of, accounting hub or subledger comes into play. That's why, Gartner and a lot of the advisory firms recommend an accounting hub or subledger as part of a modern finance architecture, to ingest all that transactional data raw, to be the single source of truth at a very granular level, then just push up a summarized level to the general ledger, or hopefully, Dynamics 365 Finance, right? So you can keep the ERP highly performative, and then have the subledger thick and in a more scalable solution like Azure. So to bring it back to the left side here with the Dynamics 365 ERP catalog, you could kind of think about Aptitude as filling that gap in that ERP stack, right? Because an Oracle, a Workday, and SAP are all going to have our piece of tech in their portfolio to serve those customers and drive finance transformation.
Excellent. So you have all of these different data sources. It's a particularly complex enterprise level finance project that you might be engaged with. And Aptitude seems like a good fit as a subledger for the data to flow into before it flows into finance. I mean, that all kind of makes sense and hangs together. What's some of the values of using Finance?
Yeah, that's great question, Rufus. So, we kind of look at it in these 4 pillars. One, we're the data fabric to integrate and normalize all these source systems, right? So if you have several, different source systems, having a common data model and bringing that all into the ERP in a meaningful ways is a hurdle, right? So, we become the integration point, and, it's kind of solve for some of those dual right issues. Then, we're an accounting rules engine, right? So we can ingest all that transactional data raw, like I said on the previous slide. And then we actually have, our interface is meant for the office of the CFO, the accounting team, to manage themselves. So it's all low code, no code accounting rules, right? So it's something they can manage themselves. And once those accounting rules are set against the transactional data that Aptitude's FineApp solution is ingested, it's all automated, right? So what used to take accountants a lot of time and a lot of effort in spreadsheets is all going to be automated, in one place, right? So you're not having to go to every different source system to get that data. It's all in one place and automated from there. That kind of leads us into on the next pillar here, granular subledger, right? We have all that transactional data at a very granular level. We can store the metadata or the semantic data, related non-financial data, however your client describes it, all the operational data against those transactions, we can store for reporting purposes. So, an accounting hub or, subledger, however, the market or industry or client refers to it as, you could think about it as really being a financial data platform, right? So, yes, we have an accounting rules engine. Yes, we have calculations engines built in there with finance controls, but we're really a finance data platform as well too, driving additional benefits there. We have had some clients that, were able to report off 300% more data than they were previously once our solution was implemented. And, a calculations engine, like I just mentioned too. So, complex calculations, commissions, variable compensation, stuff like that, is, another aspect that we can solve for our clients, which, lead to, these value props here. And, before I get into the value props, Rufus, one thing I want to call out is, if you're, reading, about, accounting in the market right now, especially accountants, right? There's a decrease of, CPAs in the market, and in the United States, there's some accounting firms that are trying to lobby to lower CPA requirements so they could get more accountants into the market, right? So our solution like ours really solves for that, right? You can, have that modern finance function and grow your business while keeping your headcount in place, or you're not struggling to hire more headcount to grow your business, right? So, we free employees up for higher value initiatives by automating the accounting function. We're going to serve up the granular and trusted data for Copilot, Power BI, Finance Premium, the business performance planning module inside of Dynamics. An FP&A team might not go to market to look for a subledger or an accounting hub, but they will reap a lot of benefits by having that granular data to report off of for their FP&A solution. In addition, we're going to, retire a bunch of legacy solutions that, often had, limited value, a bunch of Band-Aid solutions to kind of solve for this complexity in the finance architecture. We're going to thin out the GL and improve the performance of it. And, that's, I'll double click on that bullet point a little bit too. Like if you have some legacy clients that have an overly customized general ledger, sometimes that's a big barrier to move to the cloud, right? Their on-prem general ledger is overly customized, and they don't know what the path forward is, because you don't want to overly customize GL once you move to the cloud, right? So we can take on a lot of the customizations and then, make that migration smoother and de-risk it, right? And then we also have, industry accelerators to help speed up the time to value. So, whether it's like insurance data models or, insurance accounting accelerators, we can, deliver finance transformation. And sometimes, we've had some clients that we've gotten them live and delivered a lot of transformational benefits in, as small as 12 weeks, right? So pretty impactful projects.
That's massive. I mean, one of the most complex projects I've ever come across in the Microsoft space. They was a company that had grown quite quickly by acquisition. They had 20 ERPs and finance systems that they were working off internally. And they did, I think they did the opposite, where they overhired to compensate. They had about 200 IT staff and 20 people just managing the reports, for instance. So it's definitely an example of where actually, if they had looked at a tool like Fynapse at the right time, it could have really changed where they put their investment and ultimately where they saw value. So, I mean, on that note, that example, they were in like food manufacturing, and you mentioned earlier some of the bigger complexity clients, they tend to be around the financial services and around insurance as well. So is this an industry focused solution, or is this more of a horizontal kind of data management platform?
Yeah, Rufus, great question. There's definitely industries that a solution like ours is core to. Insurance, you could, I can almost say with great certainty, if you have an insurance deal, you probably want to be talking to us in talking about the value of an accounting hub or subledger to your client, because if you're not, the competition is. So the industries like that's core. Telco, based on some of the volumes that they do, a solution like ours could be core, especially when they want to report off of the metadata against that. Tech companies fall in there too. I'll give a couple examples, but like you called out, right? You said food manufacturing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, manufacturing. There's not. There might not be core manufacturing use cases, due to how a manufacturer operates. But if there's complexity in their architecture, then there's a ton of value a ton of value and horizontal value to centralize all that finance data and have your finance function looking in one place instead of 20 different places, right? So, there is core industry benefits in insurance, like I mentioned, and then, in a manufacturer or in a professional services client or in a retail client, it depends on how their architecture is set up. If they went best of breed of everything or have a lot of acquisitions and a lot of different ERPs, then, the value is centralized in the finance data in a controlled way for the office of the CFO to operate is the value there.
And just to circle back on something you said earlier, because obviously I'm conscious of the audience of the Seer 365 sessions is typically Microsoft based. There are competitive products out there that have subledgers built in.
Yeah. So not So Workday has Accounting Center. Oracle has Fusion Accounting Hub. And if you're in, this is actually a nice transition to this slide here, so that's why I move forward. But if you're have competitive opportunities, your client doesn't always know to ask for a subledger or an accounting hub. Maybe if they're a larger enterprise client and there's an advisory firm already there, that's or Gartner's there, they're going to bake in a subledger or accounting hub into the recommended architecture. But if you're in the mid market, a client doesn't always know what an accounting hub is, or maybe they didn't, if they've been in that organization their whole life and they didn't have one, right? They're not going to know what it is, right? So, this one insurance broker deal that we won here. So these are actually two recent wins from our partnership with D365 FineApps and Aptitude FineApps. So this insurance broker, had an RFP. Workday was there, and in our initial conversation, just looking at the RFP and their architecture slide, we asked them why they weren't considering a subledger or an accounting hub, right? And that gave us an opportunity to take a step back with the client and kind of challenge their vision. And that's why I love this quote from the CFO. Challenging our vision and introducing the concept of an accounting hub is what gave us confidence in, Microsoft and Aptitude. Like, that's a very powerful quote. And because it's an opportunity, we all know, right? RFPs are tough, right? So if you have an opportunity to, have a teachable moment with the client and change their perspective in, and maybe even move their goal a little bit, right? Clients have an idea of where they want to go, but sometimes, we know it's not the right direction. So we're trying to steer them back in the right spot. But when you have opportunities to do that, it completely changes your momentum with the client and puts you, in a different space, right? Because you're a thought leader in the project now. So that really swung the opportunity back in our direction when we were able to do that with the client. So anything insurance related, if you're engaging with them, I could say unequivocally, it's worth at least having a conversation with us to see where we can support and increase your win rate there. The other client here that I would like to call out is, it's a complex client. They're traded actually on the NASDAQ. They have some hardware, software, and digital platforms. They have a bunch of diverse transactions that were going into D365. And that caused a lot of regulatory compliance issues with the client. They didn't have a proper audit trail. Unfortunately, they were flagged for a critical audit matter. We were able to, go in there, centralize all their financial data, bring all those diverse, transactions together in a way that we can automate it into the GL with proper drill back functionality and accounting automation to free their employees up for higher value initiatives. So that was a huge win for us, kind of an at-risk customer that we were able to go in and save. But, I think these are really two great examples of, how we can help your clients, right? I think in the insurance space, we could bring a lot of industry expertise there. And then on the other side here with this hardware, software, really a software and digital platform client, it was the complexity of the architecture that warranted our solution there.
Excellent. And I think just to really kind of emphasize, these were situations where you were brought in nice and early into the sales cycle as well, right?
Yeah. So the insurance one, we were brought in early. The software and digital platform client, we were brought in later, but we're still able to, save the platform there. I'm happy you brought that up, Rufus. With insurance, we got wind of a lot of opportunities, and I know the ISV co-sell motion at times can be a little clunky, and you're not really sure when do you bring in an ISV. Do you secure the platform first and then bring us in ISVs because you don't want to complicate the sales cycle? But, with insurance, we are, a subledger and accounting hub's core to the deal. So the earlier we can be brought in, the better. When we're brought in late, the win rate is less than 20%, from my, almost 3 years at Aptitude. And then when we're brought in early, the win rate is over 60% in the FSI segment. So, I would encourage you, if you have any FSI deal, that we should probably at least have a conversation. We're happy to qualify ourselves out if we're not a fit there. We're not a large organization. We can't just chase every single deal. But if there is a fit there, if there is transformational benefits there, we can really help accelerate and win more deals in the FSI industry. But Rufus, I think that kind of brings us to, what, as an ISV, how we can work together more, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
I always appreciate your perspective on this topic, considering your role at Seer and your engagement with a bunch of different ISVs. But, we really look at it, how we can help, systems integrators in these, kind of 4 spots, right? So I think we can help, if you're looking to, expand your market reach, if you're looking to, go up into, higher segment clients, if you're looking to get into the enterprise segment or more complex, deals within the industries that you focus on, that's definitely an area where we can help you with, volume and, complex finance architecture. Just expanding into new industries and verticals. Maybe you have a strong FSI focus, but you're mainly focused on the CRM side. Yeah. We can help really open up, and you could cross-sell into that finance function in financial services and insurance or telcos. I think we can help a lot with a differentiated offering, right? To bring finance automation in, de-risk implementations with a solution like ours. So it's a new angle to take with your clients, right? If you're, sometimes the migration conversation gets a little stale with the client, right? They hear from everybody, you need to migrate, but oftentimes no one's really addressing their concern of my on-prem solution is highly customized, right? So we offer, bringing a subledger or an accounting hub to that conversation differentiates the conversation with them and the offering with them. We're like, all right, you're concerned about, the customizations you can't move into the cloud. Like, let's explore how, an accounting hub or subledger can take on some of those customizations. And then, one thing that I think personally differentiates us from, some other ISVs, and this is not just me saying it, this is feedback that we've gotten from some of our systems integration partners right now is that, we roll up our sleeves and, help, with top of funnel activities more than other ISVs in their experience. So, joint marketing, joint webinars and finance transformation events. We're looking to be a partner first organization. We want to focus obviously on being a SaaS company, and we know that if we want to scale, we need to be a great software company to partner with, right? So, our marketing efforts, our BDR efforts, actually are mostly in collaboration with our existing partners, right? And that's something we're proud of, and in why we have such, I think, successful partnerships with the systems integrators that we work with now is because we rolled up our sleeves and we're shoulder to shoulder with them in top of funnel activities.
Yeah. As someone that works with a number of ISVs across the Microsoft ecosystem, Aptitude really do stand out as someone who looks for, I think, collaborative partnerships and a lot of mutual growth. And I think it's fair to say that that's not seen as like a one-way street or anything like that. It is co-sell in the truest sense of the word. Wonderful. Thank you, Adam. I really appreciate your presentation today. We have a couple of minutes left if there are any questions, but otherwise, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah. Again, to reiterate what you just said, appreciate everybody that signed on to view this live. And, if you're catching the recording, thank you for catching the recording. Don't hesitate to reach out. Again, yes, we would love to sell more of our products, of course, but, we'll happily qualify ourselves out, but early in the process, we do not want to get in the way of any SI's projects if we don't see ourselves helping and really driving value for your opportunities. So, I hope you don't hesitate when you reach out, but there's competitive opportunities with Workday Oracle. Happy to share some of our competitive insights. If you have finance transformation in the FSI or TMT space, let us know. We have a lot of expertise there. If you have at-risk clients that, are maybe struggling with, some of their customizations, reach out, if it's, related to the general ledger, there might be something that we can help there. Or if you're just, curious to take a deeper dive and learn more about autonomous finance, reach out. My cell's on here, my email's on here. Call, text, voicemail, emails, everything works for me.
Written letter.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Adam. Really appreciate your time today. And if you're watching this, very much appreciate your time viewing as well. Please do reach out to Adam. Aptitude stand head and shoulders amongst our ISVs on the platform. And it'd be great to kick off some new conversations.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, all that remains for me is to wish you all a great rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thanks all.